Good evening, and welcome to my fire. Under a full moon. Now, a lot of these stories have different names. And this first story, my version of it, is called The Grave Digger's Wife. The grave digger's wife was sitting in her rocking chair, her old tomcat in her lap, watching her husband's supper growing cold on the table. "Well, Tom," she said to the cat, "he's late again, and we know what that means. He's stopped off at the inn for a drink, or two. And here he said he's sworn off drink. Well, it'll be the worse for him when he gets home." She was just lighting a candle against the dark when the door flung open. In came her husband, slamming it behind him, throwing his back up against it, saying, "Who's Tom Tildrum and where can I find him?" Well, the old cat jumped off his mistress's lap, ran over to the hearth of the fireplace and turned around and looked at that man trembling at the door. "John, John," said his wife, "whatever is the matter?" Oh, that I should have seen what I've seen tonight." "John, sit down, settle yourself. Tell me what is wrong." That I will. I was just finishing old Mr. Arbogast's grave." "Oh, old Mr. Arbogast, has he left us?" "Well, no one's going to miss him." Well, maybe not, but... Well, I just lit the lamp and I was squaring off the corners when I thought I heard a funeral party coming. And I thought to myself, they're not bringing around old Mr. Arbogast now, not without a proper wake, are they? Well, I climbed to the top of my ladder and I looked over the edge of my grave. Now, the moon had riz and there was a fog coming up from the ground, but through it I could see there was a funeral party coming, but it weren't right. It wasn't a priest leading. It was a figure in a black coat, a tall black hat, and a red sash, and he had a staff, and he was thumping it on the ground every other step, and the mourners behind were crying out every time he thumped the staff. And I could see the coffin was covered with a black drape, and on the top of it was a wee little crown. And I thought to myself, Lord, preserve me, it's the little people. "Now, John," said his wife, "tell me the truth. Did you stop off at the inn for a drink?" No, I've sworn off drink." "Well, I should have run away just there and then, but my feet, they were frozen to the ladder. I couldn't move. All I could do was watch them coming on, and come they did. And as they got closer, I could see that the pallbearers each had a silver collar. I could see the moon shining off of their sharp teeth, and their eyes glowed red. And as they came closer, I could see their hind legs were crooked. Oh no, it wasn't the little people at all. They were cats." "Now, John, tell me the truth. Just how many drinks did you have?" None. Well, they came up level to me grave and stopped. And the one in front with the black coat and the tall hat, he turned on his paw. He came over to me and looked down into my grave and said, "Tell Tom Tildrum that Tim Tildrum's dead." Turns back around, goes into line, thumps the staff, and off they go. Thump, yow, thump, yow, thump, yow, thump, yow, until they disappeared in the mist. Well, then my feet became unfrozen. I ran home here, and now I'm asking you, who's Tom Tildrum and where can I find him? Oh, the poor gravedigger's wife did not know what to think. He didn't sound drunk. He didn't smell drunk. But if he weren't drunk, he must be mad. But just then the old tom cat, who'd been listening to this sitting on the hearth, rose up on his hind legs, his eyes glowing red, and said, Tim Tildrum's dead. Then I'm king of the cats. And he skittered up the chimney flue. Some ashes came down and he was gone. Well, the gravedigger's wife warmed up her husband's supper for him. She went down into the basement and tapped out a pint of ale for him and a pint of ale for herself. And that was the last they ever saw of that old tom cat again by the gravedigger or the gravedigger's wife. I like that story. It's one of my favorites. I like to start my programs with it. Here's another favorite. Oh, I've been telling this story for a long time. It's of a motif called The Cruel Sister. Lord William came courting, the eldest daughter of the king. She was dark and beautiful, and he troth'd to her his glove and ring, hoping that he would be king after. But his eyes fell favorably upon her younger sister, who was light and lovely. And this vexed the dark sister so, that her mind fell to an evil plan. Sister, she said, come with me down to the strand, and we'll go and watch our father's boats come in. Hand in hand they went down to the strand, and the youngest stood upon a rock and looked out across the water. But the dark sister came up from behind and pushed her into the river Benori. Sister, cried the younger, give me your hand, and I will do your bidding, whatever it may be. You are doing my bidding already. Sister, she cried again, give me your hand, and I will give you all that is mine and will be mine. It is mine already. Sister, she cried once more, give me your hand, and I will turn sweet William's eyes from me. He has always been mine. And the dark sister turned her back on the river Benori. The younger sank and swam, sank and swam, sank and swam as the current carried her miles down the river. Presently, a miller's daughter came to the riverbank to get a bucket of water. And she called out, Father, stop the mill wheel. Either a swan or a bonny maid comes down the mill race. Together they drug the princess from the water and laid her upon the bank. Oh, they had never seen anyone so lovely. Emeralds and rubies and pearls were woven into her golden hair. She wore a delicate white dress, bound with a golden belt. Never had they seen anyone so lovely, especially in death. But they did not know who she had been. They called to a bard who happened to be passing near. Here was a man who had traveled the length and the breadth of the land, knew many people and many things. He recognized her at once, but saw in her a foul death. Bury her not. Rather put her upon a bier in a forest glen, and we shall see what comes to pass. And this they did with a heavy heart. They put her upon a bier in a forest glen, prayed for her immortal soul, and left her there. The bard traveled on, as was his wont, performing in the houses of lords and ladies, kings and queens. But in a year and a day he returned. By then thieves had come and stolen the emeralds, the rubies, and the pearls from her hair, carried off the golden belt. The white dress had turned to dust. All that was left were her bones and strands of her golden hair. He took her breastbone and carved it into the shape of a harp, as one might carve ivory, strung it with the golden hair, and used the finger bones as the pegs. This he carried to her father's castle, and begged entrance that he would be that night's entertainment. Well, he was gladly received, and after the evening meal, everyone brought their chairs and put them in a semicircle around the hearth of the fireplace, and the bard sat in front of them and set down the princess harp beside him, picked up his usual harp, and began to sing the old songs and the old stories, the stories of Beowulf and Grendel, of Cuchulainn and Knights of the Red Branch, Finn McCool and the Fenian warriors. Oh, he sang the happy songs, the sad songs, the old songs, the new songs. But as he performed, night crept into the corners of the room. The servants were just lighting the candles when the prince's harp began to play all of its own. The bard put down his regular harp and looked across his company at their alarmed faces. Then he saw that the dark sister grew pale. Her knuckles turned red as she gripped the arms of her chair. She recognized the lilt of her sister's voice in the music of the harp. And then the harp began to sing. Yonder sits my father the king, Benori, O Benori, and on his finger his signet ring by the bonny banks of Benori. And yonder sits an empty chair, Benori, O Benori, it was I who once sat there by the bonny banks of Benori. And there be my William, proud and free, Benori, O Benori, and with him my sister who killed me by the bonny banks of Benori. The string snapped, the harp broke, and played no more. And that's all I have to tell to you tonight. Thank you so much for joining me.